Good evening, Indiana. Tonight, the governor said something important. He said affordability is the defining challenge facing Hoosiers. He's right. And let me start by saying this. Thank you for finally acknowledging it. Better late than never. Because Hoosiers have been saying this for a long time. Not in press releases, not in glossy agendas, but in grocery stores, emergency rooms, and around kitchen tables. They have been saying the same thing over and over again. Life is getting harder to afford. And when families are saying that, many of us were listening. During the redistricting debacle, Democrats said it, Republicans said it, Hoosiers said it. People do not care about political games. They care about their bills. So tonight, when the governor says affordability is now his focus, Hoosiers are right to ask one simple question. Do you mean it now? Because saying affordability matters is easy. Governing like it matters, and it's the test. And here is the truth Hoosiers already understand. After 20 years of one-party control, Republicans drove Indiana into an affordability crisis and are now turning to Democratic ideas to try to get us out of it. The governor lists tax cuts, appointments to boards, commissions, and increasing government red tape, and calling it reform. But affordability is not measured by policy titles. It's measured by whether a family can pay the bills and still breathe. And the reality is this. Parents are losing childcare and still being told to work multiple jobs. Families are skipping doctor visits because the bill is more frightening than the illness. Rent keeps rising while owning a home drifts further out of reach. Seniors are rationing heat, electricity, and medication. Hoosiers are doing everything right. You work hard. You contribute. You play by the rules. And the rules just are not working. The governor talks about wages and workforce, and we agree. A strong workforce matters, but there is no workforce without childcare. Under this administration, childcare funding was cut. Reimbursement rates were slashed. Providers warned they would have to close. The pleas were ignored, and they closed. Now, more childcare deserts are spreading across Indiana. Parents are on waiting lists for years, not months. Costs are higher. Workers are leaving jobs they want because care does not exist. That did not happen by accident. It happened because childcare was treated as an afterthought. Childcare is not an option. It's an economic infrastructure. The governor points to universal school choice as an affordability solution. We agree on one thing. Families do deserve options, but Hoosiers deserve honesty. Universal vouchers already exist. They primarily support private K-12 tuition. They do not apply to childcare. They do not create early learning seats. They do not lower cost of living. For many families, the voucher does not even cover full tuition. Parents still pay thousands out of pocket. Choice without access is not affordability. And it does not help a parent figure out how to get to work tomorrow morning. The governor says affordability will come from reforming regulations and future planning. Hoosiers are opening bills today. Rent is rising faster than wages. First-time buyers are being priced out. Out-of-state investors are buying up neighborhoods. Electric bills are higher. Gas bills are higher. More increases are already coming to our Hoosier families across the state. Heat in January is not optional. Cooling in July is not optional. If affordability were improving, families would feel it, and they don't. The governor says medical debt is a problem. We agree. Democrats have been saying this for years. We introduced bills to stop medical debt from destroying credit. We fought to protect families from predatory collections. We pushed to keep people from losing coverage over confusing paperwork. So when this administration suddenly discovers medical debt, Hoosiers are asking, why did it take so long? Agreement is welcome, but agreement without urgency is just empty words. Healthcare should not be a maze you have to survive to stay alive. Medical debt is not a personal failure. It's a policy failure. The governor says public safety is his highest priority, but public safety is not a slogan. It is whether help arrives when someone calls 911. Last year, this administration signed SEA 1. SEA 1 cut funding local governments use to rely on police, firefighters, and emergency medical responders. Communities warned it would happen, and they were right. SEA 1 did not strengthen public safety. SEA 1 undermined it. Hoosiers agree on something fundamental. We believe in the rule of law, we believe in accountability, and we believe in liberty, justice, and due process for all. Hoosiers are not confused. They see a pattern. Affordability is talked about, but costs keep rising. Supports are cut, and families are being told to do more with less. Polling is not an attack. It is feedback, and the feedback is clear. Hoosiers want leadership focused relentlessly on the cost of living, not on distractions, not on power plays, not on Washington politics. Affordability cannot be a slogan. It is a test of leadership. And any government that asks families to do more with less while doing politics with more has failed that test. Hoosiers are doing their part. And it's time for the Braun supermajority to do the same. Thank you. And I pass it on to Leader Giaquinta for his comments in response.
Thank you, Senator Yoder. House Democrats agree with Governor Braun that Hoosiers are no better off than they were a year ago. And that's thanks to him and the Braun supermajority. If Statehouse Republicans really wanted to lower costs, they would have already done that by now. They've been in charge for the past 20 years. Now that Governor Braun is catching up to the fact that Hoosiers are struggling, he's talking about affordable utilities and childcare, but his actions over the past year speak differently. Under Governor Braun's watch, Indiana has seen the highest utility rate hikes in 20 years, doubled health insurance premiums for 300,000 Hoosiers, and dozens of child care centers closed because of his voucher cuts. Governor Braun has failed at making life more affordable for Hoosiers while gutting the programs that help them get by, like health care, food assistance, child care, and public safety. The proof is in Hoosiers' wallets. They need real relief, not lip service, without action. With that, we'll have you take any questions that you might have.
The governor touted his savings in Medicaid. A lot of that was also done by sort of limiting who could be on it. Any thoughts?
I think what we see is playing politics with saying something is saving money, but really creating more barriers to access when it comes to access to Medicaid and to SNAP benefits. We learned that the governor is investing $6.5 million in just avoiding fraud. And that alone is going to be a decision. That is a choice. When we have hungry kids who are going to go without food this summer because we decided to not invest in Sunbucks, we are going to spend $6.5 million and hire around 65 new employees just to manage fraud. That is a choice. And how do you explain this to families? How do you explain it to hungry kids? That is where you're going to make your investment. That's the kind of concern that the Democrats have with particular Senate Bill 1.
And I'll just add too, investing in pre-K vouchers, investing in K through 12 education, investing in those families that really need it is smart, good economic development. And when we don't do that, it's worse off for Hoosiers. And that's part of I think, where we catch ourselves and find ourselves right now.
Given that Republicans now appear to be going after some of the issues that your caucuses have been talking about for the past few years, do you see this as an opening to enact some of the things that you've been pushing for the last few years?
Absolutely. We can begin with our medical debt bill. Senator Cadora has filed that bill the last several sessions, and this session we heard that bill the first week of session in December. That's a sentence I haven't said. We heard that in health the first week of session in the Senate. And that bill now is being carried by Senator Charbonneau, and we heard the same policy points in that bill touted by the governor as positive steps forward for Hoosiers. Not being taken advantage of from predatory lenders, not having bad credit debt take over your livelihood when it comes to medical debt. So we are so happy to see this, but it's been a policy that the Democrats have been pushing for years, and it's now we're gonna definitely get behind it, but it's something to hear Republicans' names behind that policy.
And I'm going to add real quick, if I can, just very pleased to hear the governor, frankly, talk about data centers. Representative Matt Pierce had a bill last year that would have put more of the onus, if you will, on data centers to help. Why can't these corporations pay for most of this, the cost? And I was happy to hear the governor talk about that. We do give a sizable tax breaks to data centers. Why can't we give that same sales tax break to Hoosiers so they can feel some relief? And that's something that we can do now. We don't have to wait 2 or 3 years down the road.
Talking about child care costs, Republicans have mentioned they're hesitant, they don't even want to reopen the budget. So how do you approach the CCDF conversation and the voucher conversation as a whole?
I have said repeatedly that when we received our budget forecast, that was going to be $2.4 billion over what was forecasted in this past month in December. We can very strategically look at what cuts we made and make those investments where it's going to impact the most Hoosier families, and it is in child care, full stop. When we think about the return on investment to this state, when we make those investments in child care, we can start there. We can be very strategic and be very laser focused on where the greatest need is, but also where we can set up Hoosiers going forward and the greatest success. Because of the cuts that have been made, because of the reimbursement reductions, slashing that has happened with our child care centers across Indiana, and child care centers as a result are closing, this is going to have a generational impact on Hoosiers. And we need to look at child care specifically. And, we were able to do that with property taxes last year. We absolutely need to look at child care savings and opportunities in 2026.
And I'll also add that Representative Wendy Dant-Chester has a bill that she's filed to have a tri-share program that would allow businesses and employees to all have a say-so in this and say-so in the cost. But the first thing we need to do is get rid of that wait list that the Braun administration put forward. And I toured a child care facility in Fort Wayne back in October. They do wonderful things. They do an outstanding job. And then 2 months later in December, they announced it was closing at the 1st of January. So there is a real crisis when it comes to child care in the state. That I know the Indiana Chamber, other businesses have talked about this, and it's really becoming a problem, and it's something that needs to be addressed immediately.
You had just mentioned data centers, and Governor Braun said in his speech that he had spoken to someone saying they were willing, with the data center companies, that they were willing to pay their electricity bill. Do you believe that will happen?
We have a bill in the caucus, the Senate side, Senator Ford's bill that requires transparency in the deals that are being made with data centers that are coming here and requiring some transparency in how much anticipated electricity they're going to need and water that they're going to need. So yes, we need to have better partnerships with the companies that want to come, use our resources, provide jobs, but too many of our communities are not feeling that growth in their communities as a result of the promises that are made. And we need to make sure that Indiana communities and Hoosier families are protected, and transparency and accountability is step one.
When Governor Braun talked about the issue of affordability, a lot of people think it's just lowering prices. His argument was by bringing in jobs, having a good business climate, having high-paying jobs, that'll give Hoosiers the wages that they need, so therefore life will be more affordable. What's wrong with that logic, rhetorically speaking?
Well, what's wrong with the logic is because last year we heard that Indiana is a great place to do business and wages have not kept up. So what is it? Is bringing in business, does that draw up wages? Because apparently after 20 years of a supermajority or Republican rule in Indiana, that just didn't happen. Wages have not kept up, and communities are feeling the squeeze. Families are feeling the squeeze. And then in 1 year, what we're hearing is wages are up and Indiana is open for business. Well, I don't think Hoosier families are feeling that relief in their pocketbook. So I think that's what the Democrats are focused on, is giving real relief to Hoosiers so that they can feel it in their pocketbooks, not just investors.
Yeah, and I frankly have a really hard time squaring the fact how wonderful we're doing, yet Hoosiers are feeling a real squeeze out there, and it just doesn't make sense. Probably the fact that over the last few sessions we've been focusing on giving tax breaks to big businesses and corporations, and not middle class, regular good old Hoosier folks that really need the tax breaks. We can talk about Senate Enrolled Act 1 as a property tax break, when in fact we know what cities are going to have to do. They're going to have to raise the local option income taxes if they want to really, quote, back the blue and have the necessary funds to pay for police, fire, and EMS. So there's a lot of things out there that I hear a lot of rhetoric, but it doesn't really square with what Hoosiers are feeling.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.